Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Rare Book Room. My name is Cynthia, and I help direct the events here at Strand. For a little bit of history, Strand was founded in 1927 by the Bass family over on 4th Avenue's Book Row. Stretching from Union Square to Astor Place, Book Row gradually dwindled until, after over 92 years, Strand is the sole survivor, still run by the Bass family and still housing new and used books. Tonight, I'm very excited to welcome Olivia Gatwood for the launch of her book, Life of the Party. Olivia is a nationally acclaimed poet, writer, and a Title IX compliant educator in sexual assault prevention and recovery. Olivia's performances have been featured on HBO, Huffington Post, MTV, VH1, and BBC, and her online videos, including Manic Pixie Dream Girl and Ode to My Bitch Face, has gained over 3 million views collectively. Her poems have appeared or are forthcoming in Muzzle Magazine, the Winter Tangerine Review, Poetry City USA, Tinderbox Poetry Journal, and the Missouri Review. She is also the best-selling author of her collection, New American Best Friend. Joining Olivia is writer Mahogany Al Brown. Mahogany is a writer, organizer, and educator. Currently the artistic director of Urban Word NYC, Brown has received literary fellowships from Air Serenbe, Cave Canem, Poets House, and Rauschenberg. Brown is the author of several books, including Redbone and Dear Twitter, Love Letters Hashed Out Online. Mahogany is the author of the best-selling illustrated book, Black Girl Magic, and co-editor of the Breakbeat Poets Black Girl Magic Anthology. Please join me in welcoming Olivia and Mahogany to Strand.
Hey. Good evening. How y'all feeling? Good. So I am not Olivia Gatwood. I am Mahogany, but I would like to bring her to the stage and go back there and watch her like the audience. You have the best seat in the house. So welcome to the mic for a short reading, Olivia Gatwood.
Hi. Wow, this is a deeply formal experience. This is a podium. Okay, this is a rare books room. All right, thanks for coming, you guys. I'm used to performing in like punk venues in the middle of the country. Not because I'm punk, but because they're the only people that will be like, sure, I guess. So this is really makes me feel very legit. I'm gonna read some poems from this book, and then we're gonna have a little conversation. But thanks for coming. I'm sorry, I told some people it was free and it wasn't. That's my bad. I just assumed. Okay. I don't know this shit. All right, this is called Girl after Ada Limon. I don't think I'll ever not be one. Even when the dozen grays sprouting from my temple take hold and spread like a sterling fungus across my scalp. Even when the skin on my hands is loose as a duvet, draped across my knuckles. Even when I know everything there is to know about heartbreak or envy or the mortality of my parents, I think even then I'll want to be called girl. No matter the mouth it comes from or how they mean it, girl. The curling smoke after a sparkler spatters into dark, girl. Sweet spoon of crystal sugar at the bottom of my coffee, girl. Whole mouth of whipped cream at the birthday party, say girl, I think I'll never die. I'll never stop running through sprinklers or climbing out of open windows. I'll never pass up a jar of free dum-dums. I'll never stop ripping out the hangnail with my teeth. I'm a good girl, bad girl, dream girl, sad girl, girl next door sunbathing in the driveway. I want to be them all at once. I want to be all the girls I've ever loved, mean girls, shy girls, loud girls, my girls, all of us angry on our porches, rolled tobacco resting on our bottom lips, our bodies are the only things we own. Leave our kids with nothing when we die. We'll still be girls then too. We'll still be pretty, still be loved, still be soft to the touch, pink lip and powdered nose in the casket. A dozen sobbing men in stiff suits. Yes, even then we are girls. Especially then we are girls. Silent and dead and still the life of the party. Thank you. So this is a book about my relationship to true crime and my relationship to fear, both of which inform each other, and sort of a poetic memoir of my own fear and kind of interrogating where it comes from, whether it comes from consuming this genre that's obsessed with the murder of women, or if it just comes from simply existing. And so I had to move chronologically through this book and through my own memory to arrive at the place I was then, which was a woman, a person that was staying up all night in my house until the sun came up because I was having these deep paranoias of being killed in my house. And I really had to sit with that emotion and figure out where it was coming from. So most of the poems I'm going to start with are from a younger place about the girls I grew up with and who I was as a girl. So this is called My Mother Says I Wasn't a Bad Girl, I Was Just Bored. It's after Kim Adonisio. I wasn't the real thing. The bad girl by instinct who wouldn't even call herself bad because that would mean at one point she considered what it might look like to be good. I was something less lovable. Woke up before the bad girl sleeping next to me and tinkered with her makeup till noon. Followed her out the window so I could mimic the way she bent her legs. Monkey fucked every cigarette so I didn't get caught fumbling with the flint wheel on some dude's bick. I swung the bat in the right direction. Undid enough belts to fill a resume right, but I never hailed the ride on my own. Never instigated the fight. Never promised a man I was good and meant it. The bad girl calls her body what it is. The shit. I called my body unfamiliar until it was looked at and then channeled everything I'd learned from the bad girl. How to arch the back, curl the toes. Don't be ashamed of the veins in your neck, she said once. They mean you're feeling something. The bad girl wants everyone around her to feel something and she wants to see proof. Once we smoked PCP from a Dr. Pepper can and lay in the dark talking about our stomachs. She was frustrated that she couldn't see anything, so she had me hold a lighter above my torso while she pulled up my shirt and watched as my belly rose and fell each time I breathed her in. Thank you. Let me know if you guys get tired of clapping. You don't have to keep doing it, but I guess whatever, keep doing it. Okay. Let's see here. So while writing about true crime, I was reading a lot of articles already about women's homicide, both as a consumer, but also as a critic of the genre itself. So for those of you that consume true crime, you know that it's a deeply flawed genre. It's one that I think maybe masquerades as advocating for women's safety and women's rights while being very selective about which women it chooses to highlight. So often the women who gain the most notoriety in their deaths are young, cis white women, women who are often killed by strangers, often men of color, when in reality, most women who are victims of homicide, it happens at the hands of their partners. Trans women of color are more likely to be victims of homicide than any other social group, but we don't hear their names. There are no Law and Order SVU episodes devoted to their stories. And this language, the language is so coded in true crime, and it tells us who's valuable. And something I realized while writing this was that while I was existing in a deep state of fear, it was also a privilege to know that my body would be looked for at all, that I would be thought of at all by anyone but my own family, that law enforcement would care. So I started writing found poems, which are poems made up of lines from other texts, to illuminate this coded language. This is a found poem from People Magazine's 1997 coverage of the JonBenet Ramsey murder. It's called Murder of a Little Beauty. Little Miss Christmas dead in the basement. Ripples of shock quickly spread through the nation. A rope and a blanket found near the victim. The blood and flesh of Miss West Virginia. The perfect mother, the perfect brother. A private jet for the perfect father. Duct tape, a cord twisted round her neck. A primetime interview on CNN. Flirtatious, provocative, 6-year-old kid, Miss America Royale in 1996. Elegant, lavish, gets all the attention. A ransom note, as much as John's pension. Dab your eye, we know you like it gory. Only the blondes get a cover story. Girls go missing right around the corner, but she needs a tiara for us to mourn her. Naturally attractive, exceptionally bright. How many ways can we say the word white? Thank you. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going. This is called My Grandmother Asks Why I Don't Trust Men. I'm really good at titles, as you can tell. I'm really creative and subversive and interesting and abstract. If you have a son, how will you love him, she says. She's pacing the living room while the Thanksgiving Day parade plays behind her. A montage of inflated cartoon bodies floating slow down 6th Avenue, smiles painted onto their faces. I consider not responding. I consider explaining that I can love him and not trust him. I consider saying that I won't love him at all, just to scare her. Instead, I say, if I am ever murdered, like body found in a ditch, mouth stuffed with dirt, stalking around my neck, identified by my toenails, please don't go looking for a guilty woman. When my father and I go for a jog on the arroyo and he runs ahead, leaving me alone with my breath and an empty trail, I keep running, but now from something. When I cross a coyote drinking from the ditch, I am relieved it is an animal. When I see him, my father, stretching against a tree, I scream at him for leaving me alone. He grabs my shoulders as if to shake my loose parts into place. What are you so afraid of? He asks. Why are you afraid? I don't know why I'm doing this. Playing show and tell with the times I've walked fast in the dark. Maybe I see myself in the worst of it. Maybe if I can imagine myself in the shallow water, you should too. Maybe I am tired of hearing people talk about the murder of girls like it is both beautiful and out of the ordinary. I ask the hotel attendant to put me in a room near the elevator. I listen to my best friend breathe on the line while she walks home. Sometimes I search woman's body found in when I visit a new city. Then I learn her name, her age, where they found her, under a baseboard, limbs folded into a closet. I learn her hobbies, that she loved to sing. I watch the security footage they discovered of her last moments. I watch her move and breathe like the rest of us. I watch her look over her shoulder 3 times before walking out of view. Thanks. So it's worth saying, I guess, maybe it's too late, but if at any point you need to like get up and leave and you just like need to take some space, you 100% can. I won't be offended. I used to do shows for frat boys, so people walking out of my shows is actually totally chill, which doesn't make you a frat boy. I'm just saying the act doesn't offend me. Does that make sense? You're like doing it for better reasons than they probably were, but either way, I got a thick skin. So if you need to take care of yourself, please prioritize that. You don't need to worry about hurting my feelings. Or whatever. Okay, politeness is a scam. Okay, so this is a poem about all the times that men laughed at me while I was afraid. It's called Manslaughter or Man's Laughter. 1. I told a joke to the babysitter's father and he laughed so hard he fell off the swing. He laughed so hard he asked me to come inside. 2. The first time a boy kissed me, his friends laughed, their torsos throbbing to the same beat while he lodged his tongue inside my throat until I choked. 3. Laughter requires modification in our breathing patterns. Example, while I struggle to breathe, so does the man. 4. At the bakery where I work, my boss asks me to visit him in his office 3 times a day, where he details the things he would like to do to my teenage body. 5. Today, a policeman sits next to him. When my boss says I would fuck you against a wall, the cop laughs so hard he has to hold on to his duty belt. 6. The boys make it a game to throw me off the jet ski as close to the rocks as they can get without killing me. 7. The boys make it a game to leave me in the park at night until I think they're not coming back. 8. The boys make it a game to hold me underwater. 9. Laughter does not replace a sentence, it punctuates it. Where someone might pause to cough or breathe, laughter takes its place. Example, where I gasp for air, so does the man. Where I gasp for air, the man laughs. Where I barter, the man laughs. Where I scream, the man laughs. 10. At the house party, I am asleep in the guest room. I am woken up by pain. On the floor, there is a boy I do not know, with his hand reaching up towards the bed, his fingers shoved inside me, pulsing. He is not looking at me. He might as well be fumbling for his keys in the dark. 11. I leave the room wrapped in a sheet. The boys at the party love this. A panicked girl, naked under their linens. When I tell them, they storm the bedroom, pick the boy up by his arms and legs like a heavy net of dead mackerel and toss him out onto the porch. They are laughing so hard they cannot ask me if I am okay. They cannot help me find my clothes. 12. The boys make it a game. 13. My boyfriend laughs while another man claims the name of a serial killer. He tells us he can lead us to the bodies, and my boyfriend laughs harder. 14. I am screaming behind my boyfriend's locked door. When I get out, his roommate sits on the sofa laughing at the television turned all the way up. 15. Years later, the roommate sees me at a bar. He does not say hello, just laughs and says, if I had a girl who looked like you, I would have locked her in my room too. 16. Laughter is not about humor. It is about acknowledging a shared joy. Laughter is about bonding. Example, when I hear men laughing, I do not enter the room. I crawl home in the dark. I'm gonna read some, so if you were at the show last night, I read a lot of the ones I just read. I'm gonna do some ones I didn't, if that's okay. Okay, okay. All right, well, I read this one last night, but I'm gonna do it again. Okay, this is based off of every article I've ever read about a girl who died. It's called She Lit Up Every Room She Walked Into. She lit up every room she walked into, but never asked to be the center of attention. Just came in, always with a smile on her face, excited to see the people who loved her, which was everyone she ever met. And did I mention she was always happy? Never, ever, ever was she in a bad mood. In fact, I don't think anyone ever saw her not smiling. Did you? I heard from a girl at church that she actually had a smile surgically implanted into her face. I mean, just the most bubbly, cheerful girl you've ever met. Everyone had a crush on her, but no one actually dated her, which made her that much more desirable. She was celibate, I heard, but somehow knew exactly how to make everyone want her. She was like that. Such a bright future, so bright we could barely even look at it without permanently damaging our eyesight. She could have done anything she wanted, a nurse, a lawyer, a silent wife. Talk about a girl with goals. And on top of all of that, she was a track star, volunteered at the soup kitchen on weekends, and had never disappointed her parents. Honestly, come to think of it, there was no one in the world who deserved this less than she did. Of all people, I can think of 12 people who deserved this more than she did. It's almost like a sacrifice. Maybe the world just didn't deserve her. Maybe none of us did. Someone so wholesome, so vibrant, so alive, so obedient, so demure, so petite, so tender, so strong, so pretty, so prude, so brave, so quiet, so butchered, so blue. I guess the silver lining is that now the bar isn't so high for the rest of us. We all look better with her dead. Just kidding. Did you hear they found her clutching the fence? She fought like hell, apparently. It's a shame it was my birthday party and I forgot to invite her. It's a shame no one heard her screaming. The music was just so loud and we were all singing along. I had one about blowjobs I wanted to read, which is a weird transition. So I'm just not gonna do that. There's one about blowjobs, just know that. Okay, here's one about curing my yeast infection with a clove of garlic. Also a weird transition. Has nothing to do with murder, but is about healing, which is also important. If you didn't know and you have a yeast infection, one way to cure it is to shove a clove of garlic up there. It works. I learned it the hard way. Okay, the easy way. Sonnet for clove of garlic inside me. Yesterday I groveled in the bathroom. Broke a nail against my denim crotch, squirmed in line, twisted knees at the grocery store, dug up a buck to buy a bulb of you. Come evening, you were in my bathroom, then skinned knuckle caught in the quarter machine, plucked, peeled, and wedged into my copper mine, you small burn, you small baker, kneading bread in a dark, damp room, working overtime. Sam says the taste will make it to your mouth by morning, and that's how you know it worked. And when I fish you out with my whole hand, you take the thick poison with you, martyr lily, saint of soil, sear me clean again. Thank you. All right. I'm gonna read 3 more. This is called Will I Ever Stop Writing About the Dead Girl? And all of the ways she, we would be unborn, and at the hands of who? Men we once loved or who stumbled upon us, those who we ticked off or turned down, and then how they will remove what's left in small parts or on display or tucked into bed to be found by the landlord. Even when I am not writing about the dead girl, I am writing about the dead girl. Even when the girl in the poem is alive, she is dead, and I am writing about a time when she wasn't. I am sorry for killing the mood. It's just that I can't stop thinking about her and how she must have been afraid like I am, how she too must have imagined some blue version of herself. I've always had trouble getting over people, and maybe the dead girl is the one I never will, the one that got away, whose favorite song is playing in the pharmacy while I wait for my medicine. Maybe there is a dead girl inside of me, inside of all of us, waiting for her turn to tap dance at the beauty pageant. Maybe right now she's shy and nervous backstage, but once she hears her name, she'll shuffle, ball change, and not blink twice. This is called All of the Missing Girls Are Hanging Out Without Us. Let this be the folklore, not in a field, not in a river, not mouth half open, knock-kneed under the tall grass behind the baseball field. Not in a park or at the bottom of a drained pond. Not in their boyfriend's trunks, their boyfriend's closets, or between the floorboards in his house. They are alive, but not in a basement. Not scanning a grocery store bulletin board for a picture of their young and gone face. No, the girls are having a contest. Who can catch the most tiniola moths in a mason jar? Who can sprint back to the barnyard fastest to set it on the kitchen windowsill during the golden hour? The amber light and its brief devour. The only prize is that the winner gets to see it first, a horde, chestnut-colored and coated in honey, slapping against the glass walls and tin roof, unbroken by the human hand. All of the girls will flock around it, a mob of soft and angry, a lantern alive, kaleidoscope of wings. For a moment, they are not all in the same place until dark, when the girls have lost interest and gone to sleep beneath each other's warm pits and legs, at which point the oldest girl will carry the jar out onto the porch and unscrew its lid. Let the gentle bodies spill out like wedding doves, frantic and blooming into night. Thank you. Okay, I think I'm just going to read one more, and then we're going to invite Mahogany Al Brown back up to talk. So this is about Aileen Wuornos. Does anyone know who that is? Okay, she's like one of the first women serial killers, but I have a really complicated understanding of that title for her because I believe that in many ways she was just trying to survive. I also think of her as a murdered woman because she was executed by the state. And so this is called Aileen Wuornos Takes a Lover Home. So she's a Pisces, right? Which means she's already in love with a girl at the other end of the bar who drinks whiskey neat and has a mullet just like hers, only red. Pisces love to see some version of themselves in everything. Pisces only love things that say something about who they are. Aileen is here at this biker bar in Daytona, Florida called the Zodiac because she wants to put something wet and alive in her mouth. I don't want to talk about the men who tried to kill Aileen or how she killed them first. I don't want to talk about how self-defense doesn't make you a serial killer. About how she said if 100 men had tried to rape her, she would have killed 100 men. Tonight, I want to talk about two girls kissing against a wall in an alley behind a lesbian bar. I want to talk about the fact that there are almost no lesbian bars left in the country, and one theory as to why is that queer women are more likely to fall in love and move in together and ultimately stop going to bars. I was sad once that there were no bars for gay girls in my town, and then I remembered that love can kill an industry. If I ever look back and think I should have spent more time going out with my friends, at least I will know I spent most of my life in love. I want to talk about how Aileen and Tyria went home and stopped going to Zodiac, how Zodiac is out of business. I want to talk about how they never went on a date, they simply went home together and didn't leave the house for a week. When Tyria suspected Aileen had killed more than one man, it was because Aileen brought her gifts that she couldn't have afforded to buy. I want to talk about how in the end, Tyria said we were more like sisters than lovers. In the end, Tyria was promised immunity by the cops in a phone call tapped by police. Aileen called Tyria her right arm, her left arm, her breath. How all Tyria could say back was, please tell them, please say that you did it. But Aileen didn't want to talk about it. She wanted to talk about love. So Tyria would hang up, unsuccessful, and the officer would tell her to say it like this. Tell her she'll get off. Tell her it won't be so bad. But how each time, for 3 days straight, the police listened to Aileen talk about love, about her right arm, her left arm, her breath, her breath, her breath. Thank you very much. Welcome up, Mahogany Al Brown.
Give it up for Olivia Gatwood. All right, we got to take a deep yoga breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Woo-sa. So I have all the questions. 1, why murder?
I don't know. I guess that's why I wrote the book, was to figure that out. I think that a lot of our fear, especially fear, I think, as women, is both taught in a way, like from the time we're very young, we're taught that this is a real threat. Like I remember being in health class and learning to put a napkin over our drinks as not to be roofied. And what that does to the young brain in terms of what you're trying to protect yourself from. And then also having very real experiences with men from a really young age that were scary. And then the ironic thing is that you grow up and you're being pummeled with this media that's obsessed with dead girls while also being told that your fear is irrational and that you're being paranoid. And so I think I was obsessed with learning and reading about murder in part because I was obsessed with learning and understanding this fear of mine. I said this last night, but like when I was young and learned about puberty, I was so afraid of it that I read every book I could get my hands on. And I think that's always been my reaction to fear, is like, I'm gonna learn everything I can about it so that when it happens, I know what to do. And that's like a false sense of comfort, but it's real. And I think that's why murder.
I love that some would read this and think, oh, it's about murder because it's filled with odes and elegies, celebration and light. So how did you take something that was so obviously painful and scary and bring light to it?
I love writing odes, which is weird because I'm not an optimist. I'm just simply not, and I don't ever want to be. Again, last night talked a lot about being killjoy. Like I'm very much a killjoy. So I don't know really why I write odes. I think they're just like really good writing prompts. But I think part of it was that I like had to write my way out of this. It's not sustainable to stay up in your house every night until the sun comes up. Like, you just can't do that. And I had to figure out a way to stop doing it. And the way that I did that was to write other worlds, like all of the missing girls are hanging out without us. Or there's a poem in the book called In the Future, I Love the Nighttime, about a world where I love walking around at night alone. That sounds great to me, and I'm envious of that experience, and I want that. So I had to write that. And then the small, like a clove of garlic has nothing to do with murder, but it has to do with healing yourself with what you have. And what I had was a clove of garlic. And so if that's the small joy that is going to help me go to sleep at night, that's what it is, Yeah.
Shout out to homeopathic ways of healing yeast infections.
Yeah, they work.
It's real work. Look.
It works. It's
You
really
said
gnarly.
love kills an industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost did like a cartwheel in the back. I was like, that's real.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of that. And you also had another moment where you said politeness is a scam. And you just do these moments where you just have these throwaway statements, but they dead ass are like anthem building statements. So tell us more about how you're creating the next anthem.
I don't know. I think politeness is a scam. I think my favorite murder, I think they say fuck politeness on there or something, so I don't want to take full credit for that, though I've always firmly believed it. Like, etiquette doesn't make sense to me. I'm going on a tangent right now, but what is etiquette? Why? I can't put my elbows on the table while I'm eating?
No, I think that's fair. Like sturdy. You should sturdy yourself.
That's what I'm saying. If I'm eating
soup.
something.
But like etiquette for like if you're on an airplane and you take your shoes
sure.
off.
Don't be
and your
disrespectful.
Toes are next to me.
Yeah, don't be. That's just disrespectful.
Jamila Woods put that up the other day. Somebody put their toes next to her on the airplane.
See, that's not even about etiquette. That's just disrespect.
Okay, there's a difference.
Etiquette. Yeah, I feel like etiquette is like bullshit manners invented by someone.
Fair.
That affect actually no one. Like, my elbows literally affect no one.
That's
Feet
true.
on your seat affects someone. That smells. My elbows don't smell.
Right. My elbows don't
Smell
smell.
them.
That's the name of her next chapbook. My elbows don't smell.
My elbows don't smell. I don't know, but what were we talking about? Anthems?
The anthem. So love kills an industry.
Mm-hmm.
You have these moments where you look at a whole picture and then like this beautiful moment comes from that. So
Sure.
I feel like those are anthems.
Thank you.
And you very much create them for people to walk away, put them in their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who said fuck politeness, but politeness is a scam. It's dead ass a bumper sticker. So you can get on that.
Maybe I need it.
Yeah. So talk about what you were reading when you wrote this.
Sure.
When you wrote this, because I saw a couple of the greats in there, Ida Lemon and Ross Gay and Melissa.
Yeah, well, I'm always reading those three. I'm always reading Ada Limon. I'm always reading Ross Gay. I'm always talking to Melissa. So those are like in everything. But while I was reading this book, I had read at Melissa's suggestion The Red Parts by Maggie Nelson, which is a memoir about writing a book of poems about her aunt's murder. And it's about her becoming obsessed with this case. And I had never seen someone write about that feeling. She calls it murder mind, becoming like obsessed with one case and it's all you can think about. I had never seen that before. And then I read that memoir first, and then I went back and read the book of poems that she'd written it about. And those were both really informative, both primarily because I think they gave me permission in some way. At least with the book, it's called Jane, is the book of poems. Her aunt's name was Jane. Her aunt also was born on the same day as me. Not that that matters, but it does, but it doesn't, but it does. Okay, so it was just weird. But yeah, that showed me what a poetic memoir can look like, what like small snapshots written in a chronological order can do, how poetry can like function as one whole story, a bunch of small stories within one. I think people sometimes assume that collections of poems can be read sporadically and not in order, but poets work really hard to create an order. And that book like reminded me of that. So that's what I was reading, a lot of Maggie Nelson.
I like that you started talking about the life of a poet. What does a day in the life of Olivia Gatwood look like?
Probably not that cool. Well, maybe really cool. I don't know. I live in Santa Cruz, California.
Whoop, whoop, what's
yeah. Yeah, and it's pretty idyllic. I write best in the morning. I learned from going to school for writing that it's really important to figure out what time of day you write best and honor that. It doesn't mean you have to write from 9 to 5, but it does mean there's a time of day that your brain is at its most creative. Mine is early in the morning. Not early, no, but in the morning. I've taken up surfing. Yeah, it's really great. It's like the only thing I do that feels disconnected from writing. Yeah, and now the day in the life is doing this. So that's cool. Starting yesterday.
Yeah. Yes. So we were in the back talking about music, but like it was a happenstance. We were really talking about how the industry builds people up just to break them down. And instead of talking about more murder, I want to talk about soundtracks to making this book. And then what you stopped listening to, because there's a moment where you're like, okay, I can't listen to the James Blake again.
Yeah. Okay, so I actually write in like complete silence.
What?
Yeah, I know that's like sociopathic.
That's serial killer-ish.
Yeah. I like write in total silence, like in my kitchen. What? And I like can't have anyone like there. Like I get really I have like, it's super weird. It's probably really creepy to watch actually. I've never seen it because I'm in it, but I have a feeling it's really weird.
Can you do a timestamp video next time?
Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Did you guys see on Twitter that really sweet husband did an impersonation of his wife being like, and then being like, like, I think that's what I do. Yeah, I think I do that. So I don't listen to music while I'm writing, but I was listening to music during this time. And one that came up on my playlist the other day, and I was like, ugh, for some reason it was Rosalia. She's like a Spanish pop star. And like I think and I don't know why, but I was like, ugh, I can't listen to that. Also James Blake, actually.
Great soundtrack when you're writing.
Yeah.
And then when you're done, you're like,
no way,
leave
no
me.
more.
Move from me.
Yeah, and I did get, for a while, I got really into this pianist named Ben Cosgrove.
Do we know him? Ben, are you here?
No, Melissa was laughing.
You said it like he was here.
I had a thought he might be, but he's not because he literally only writes in national parks. He goes to national parks and he writes piano songs. And I'm obsessed with him.
Yes. You're very specific
I'm so
with
in
your
love with
loves.
him. He's like, he's like, this song is about salt. Yes. And you're like, and he's like, I was sitting in a salt flat when I wrote it. And you're like, dude, like, I feel like he'd be so shitty to date, but I so want to date him. I feel like he'd suck to date because he like loves trees more than you. Yeah. He's like, I'll never feel for you what I feel for nature. Yeah. I think he said that. I think he was like, I guess a lot of people would say this song's about a relationship, but for me, it's just about trees. And I was like, oh. Anyway.
You really cannot win over incense cedar.
No.
This will never win.
Yeah.
You and a mahogany table. You and a pine forest. You would lose.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. That hurts my feelings. I want to be more important than nature.
I think the world does. I think this, except him.
That's the problem with humanity is we want to be more important than nature. And that's why it's over. All right. That's why we're dying.
This is it, guys.
Murder.
But there you go, Buzzkill. You came right back. You did good.
Woo! Climate change. Climate change.
Where do we go? All right. So when you were writing,
Uh-huh.
who are you trying to save?
Oh.
And who are you trying to bury?
Wow.
I know.
A question.
It's a writing prompt. You can use it.
Well, I suppose I don't want to save anybody. I don't want that responsibility. But I think that I think it really freed me when I stopped writing for people I stopped writing to make people believe me. And I started writing for people that needed to know that they weren't alone in their lives. And I think because I was raised in slam, for better or for worse, I learned from a young age. I thought as a young writer that every poem I wrote had to be a PSA that was gonna like save the world and was gonna like convince people that my experience was real. And then I realized that like that's just not interesting to me. It's not worth my time. I would rather write poems for girls than for like misogynists on the internet whose minds I've never changed. So I guess that's who I'm trying to bury, are misogynists on the internet.
Manslaughter or man's laughter, very much like Harriet Mullen, who did Supermarket or Sperm Kit.
Okay.
If you look at it, she makes asterisks of certain parts of the word. So whichever way you read it, it's supermarket or it's sperm kit.
What is a sperm kit?
Great question.
I want nothing to do with it.
Gotta read the book. You gotta read the book.
Keep it far away
But
from
it's more
me.
so that
Okay.
she's playing with syntactical violence.
Sure.
And I think that you have those moments here as well with manslaughter or man's laughter. Can you talk about why you chose the forms that you did? Some are couplets, some are these small brackets where they're confined and kind of feel like a pine box.
Sure. That I don't mean to sound like one of those like people who you walk in and they're like, I don't know, I felt like painting the kitchen yellow, so the kitchen is yellow. But I sort of act like that. Like everything I do is just because I felt like doing it. You know? Very little of my life is intentional. Why did I move to Santa Cruz? Because I felt like it. I just needed some sun one day. You know? And that's a deep privilege that I could have just chosen to do that I can choose to do anything. But anyway, I think poems come to me that way as well. Manslaughter, of course, I had been thinking about that for so long, and I know a lot of people think about that word, but I knew that there was something there, especially in the context of this book. But when it comes to like couplets and form and certain poems being in brackets, I think a lot about the energy that a poem carries. So couplets for me feel really rhythmic and playful. So depending on the content of the poem, like the Aileen Wuornos poem is in couplets, in part because I'm thinking of this duo of Aileen and Tyria navigating their way through the world. It feels like a poem about a duo. The poems that are in brackets, that's an ongoing narrative called the Babysitter Poems about my babysitter growing up. And the reader's meant to come back to them and know every time that they've arrived back at a babysitter poem. So it's both a visual cue, but also it feels like a secret. It feels like someone whispering to you at a party. And that story felt like a secret. She had so many secrets. The story of her feels like something I feel even still nervous about it being in the world. So a bracket felt appropriate. Maybe that's not the most MFA answer, but it's the truest.
Fuck MFAs.
Yeah, for real, I agree. I mean, I don't have one.
I do. I got the debt too.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just everything I do is like really emotionally driven, and I try to listen to poems. And usually when they come out in a certain form, if a poem comes out and I'm not capitalizing any letters, I leave it that way. And sometimes I do it, and I'm like, okay, I guess I needed to do that.
And who have you read that makes you want to slap somebody in the face? Like, it's so good, you just want to turn around and smack the shit out of someone. It can't just be me. We've all had this moment, right? Like, the song is so good, you're just like, ooh, energy transference.
I know that happened to me recently. What did it happen with? Oh, what was it? Well, I was rereading Patricia Smith 2 days ago, and I started yelling.
Nice.
I didn't hit anybody. I'm trying to think. I mean, I hate to say it, but like, honestly, like the Red Parts by Maggie Nelson made me want to slap somebody. That shit was so fucking good. So emotional. It's so emotionally wise. And like, I love when writers just really honor their obsessions. And to write a memoir about writing a book of poems about your obsession is like so extra. It's like, I'm still not done. Like, you know, when you're the person who like, you have a little conversation with someone and then the person you're with is like, okay, great. And they turn up the music and then you're sitting there and you're like, well, wait, so I had one more thought about that. Like, that's what I'm doing at all times. And so when writing reflects that feeling, I feel so seen.
Mm-hmm. And so then what is next? The next writer theme for you, topic? We talked about this being like, now that it's done, it feels like breath. But you also just said,
I can't let go.
Yeah, so we could get life of the after party. The redux, right? But is there something else that you're leaning towards?
Yeah, I think so this is over for me in terms of I feel very over writing about myself. Not because I'm done, but because it's exhausting. And I think for a while I won't have much more to say. So I'm excited to start diving into fiction, and arguably that's also about myself. But I'm excited to start creating people and letting characters reflect the things about myself that I understand, and also like exploring things I don't and habits I've observed in other people and creating other alternate realities. So yeah, I'm excited to play with form and story. Yeah. And
can we look forward to Life of the Party being on Netflix?
We already talked about this. No.
Sure.
I don't
really
know.
Good.
It depends. I'm so afraid of Netflix. I'm actually really afraid of exposure in general. I just feel like Netflix, like everyone can get it. Like,
no, we can't.
Okay, but like everyone has someone's Netflix password, and then everyone watches it, and then everyone has an opinion. Like all kinds of people watch Netflix. Not all kinds of people read books.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe that sounds fucked up. Okay, wait a second. Let me rephrase. Like, okay, a lot of dudes are like not gonna pick up this book.
Got it.
If it's on Netflix, like I don't want that exposure to like the dudes on Netflix.
Got it.
You know?
Got it. Which brings me to my second to last question.
Okay.
How would you speak to someone who has just written a book?
Mm-hmm.
Has just received a little bit of glory,
mm-hmm.
and it's on the intranets. Like, how would you instruct them to proceed to take care of themselves?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you replenish the well?
Okay.
The well being you.
Sure. I think spending, I don't mean to sound like a baby boomer, but spending like time away from the internet is really valuable. I delete Instagram off my phone like 3 times a week, and then I always re-download it. But then I do delete it though, and it's really important for that to happen. When I am in the ocean, I don't have my phone, and that's super important. It's been really valuable for me to have community that aren't writers, that I don't talk to about work, because I think with what you said, when you've garnered when you're writing books and it's especially it's part of your income, that's your work, and you deserve to clock out. So I think that's a really important thing to hold, is understanding when you can clock out, what that looks like for you, what that means. And clocking out has been really valuable for me. So, yeah, like all my friends in Santa Cruz are scientists. Wow. You know? Yeah, they're all scientists. And so we don't talk about poems, you know?
What do you talk about?
I ask them about turtles and shit.
Is that in the new novel?
Sort of.
Because you're working.
Yeah, I'm working, and I am working. But my writing is my time, and I don't really talk to very many people about it. And that's important to me. Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions?
Oh yeah, we can open it up.
We can open up a couple of questions. 3. There's one. Who got 2? It's like an auction. 2, great. 3, perfect. Come on up. Or just say it loudly because we are being filmed and I'm going to repeat it.
Well, you posted a while back that, like, I think in France, a bunch of your stuff was stolen. And, like,
Oh, in Greece, yeah.
Like, how did that affect this book?
Yeah, in Greece, my laptop was stolen. It was so dramatic. It's like, someone has life of the party. It was like, I was like, whoa, he's gonna leak it to the internet. And then I was like, nobody gives a fuck. He wanted your laptop. He wanted your laptop. Actually, the craziest part is, like, I was sitting in the living room. I had jet lag. It was 3 a.m. I was sitting in the living room and a guy just walked in. This dude. And I was like, hello? I was like way more like sassy than I thought I'd be. I was like, hello? I like thought I would never be like that, but it's like fight or flight or valley girl, and I like went valley girl. I was like, hello? You know? And so that's what happened, and then he just left. But he's the one who stole my backpack. He was there to return it without the laptop. He took my laptop and returned my backpack. He gave me back my Diva cup and my passport.
Most importantly,
yeah,
though.
he was like, oh, I don't want that. So I was with Melissa. It was really intense. It was one of those things where, like, you have to really embody a Zen mindset of, like, there is no way I can panic about this. I have to let this go. So Melissa was sitting there and she was like, Olivia, Ernest Hemingway's lover burned all of his poems. And he's Ernest Hemingway. And I was like, you're right.
I love your focus, Melissa. That's really great.
So, yeah, it was really intense. And then I felt kind of stupid because I had embodied this really, I'm going to make this a lot less spectacular for you here in a second, which is that I was like, all right, well, that happened, and I have to write the book again. And it might have been 170 pages of my entire life, but I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it better. And then I didn't realize that I didn't know about the cloud. I didn't know about the cloud. Someone was like, have you looked on the cloud? And I was like, what's the cloud? And I looked on the cloud, and there it was. Can you believe that?
Shout out to the cloud.
I can't believe it.
Big
I
Brother
never backed the thing up on the cloud. I didn't know about the cloud. It doesn't.
Everything.
It does it automatically. That's crazy. So yeah, you know.
I'm glad you didn't rewrite it though. That would have hurt your heart.
Yeah, someone like DM'd me.
100 pages
like,
in, you've been like,
Yeah. Shit.
This book is 375 pages now.
Yeah, the cloud is amazing. So I hit the cloud. I'm sorry. I wish it was a more romantic story. I wish I could tell you I rewrote it from the beginning and that's life of the party. No, I found the cloud.
Found the cloud.
Yeah.
Second here. Yes.
Yes.
So I know you started in slam, but what do you think really affected how your voice is on paper?
Reading. I started in spoken word, so a lot of my studying of the craft came from watching YouTube videos and going to open mics and poetry slams, and that was super valuable for a long time. And then there comes a time in your career, there comes a time in your career as a person who writes for the page where you have to read your shit aloud. And there comes a time as a person who's a performer where you have to put your shit on paper. And I had to really start reading. And I know that seems so obvious, but it isn't always. I grew up understanding poetry as consumed by going to bars and watching people on stage. And so I had to start understanding what a poem looks like, and not just and how to read a poem, how to navigate and sift through a poem that's not being handed to me by someone, that's not in control, they're in their control, in the author's control, and what control looks like on the page. And so, yeah, I started reading the work, especially of people who aren't spoken word performance poets, like Ada Limon and Ross Gay, who do read their work out loud, but arguably are best known for their books, and understanding like what is this poem doing right that doesn't need the writer here to tell it to me. So I think it's really important to read more than you write, and to read like a writer, which is to read more than just story, but look at what tools are being employed and what form the poem is taking, what's resonating with you. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you. And last but not least.
This is more of an open question, but it's kind of related to the process once you're done with the draft.
Mhm.
You mentioned you're a little scared of exposure or Netflix, but this is also a book of poetry that's been published by a mainstream publisher, you know, compared to the chapbook before it, and kind of if you have thoughts on, you know, having an agent, having an auction for your book, what having a huge team behind it means, and what having that type of, you know,
Capitalism. Did you just throw that word in there at the end? Just capitalism. All
It's
right. Yeah. Just. Well, you know, I think independent presses are incredible. You know, and I think that having your work on an independent press, on a small press, can do just as much for the self and your understanding of yourself as a writer as a major press. I was thinking today about how, like, when I published New American Best Friend, like, it was just as exciting, you know, like, for that self. It was different because the exposure was different, but it was the same feeling. So, and also, having an agent has been one of the best things that's ever happened to me as a writer, as a professional writer. Having someone to advocate for you in legal settings. I don't know how the fuck to read a contract. Do you? You probably do. I don't. I didn't even know the cloud existed.
Yeah, no.
You know what I'm saying? I can't be trusted in a boardroom. I was
just like, yep,
yeah.
word. No, agents are the shit.
Agents are the shit, right. and I think anyone who makes you feel bad about having an agent is probably just trying to scam you. So keep that in mind. If and when an agent speaks for you. So having an agent who believes in me, having an agent whose values align with mine, having an agent whose taste in work and literature I trust, because they're also your editor. And they're also like your counselor, and they're also like kind of your mom, you know, like you're like going to them about all these things that can be really scary that come with being on a major press. I love the press that I'm on. It's called the Dial Press. It's part of Penguin Random House, and it's a team of women, and it's a team of women who care deeply about the literature that exists in the world and its role, and not being careless with that. And also, I feel like I have to address the capitalism thing. Capitalism is violent, and I exist inside of it, and both are true at the same time. Yeah, and I'm always grappling with that, with how to be a critic of capitalism while needing it to pay my bills. Yeah. And so, I don't know, we contain multitudes. And sometimes independent presses are run by misogynists, and sometimes that's not cool either. Okay,
It almost became
going on.
Whoa, Jesus. Did we turn again? That pivot was deep.
Well, I just want to provide nuance, which is
like
to say,
cloud
like,
and capitalism.
yeah, there's just not, like, nothing is holistically good. You know what I'm saying?
Fair.
Like, a mainstream press can be run by radical women, and an independent press can be run by gaslighting misogynists, and both can exist at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
But
getting
you
too
like your
specific.
press.
My
You like
heart
your
is
press.
racing.
You like your agent.
Yeah, I love my agent. I love my press. I love my editors. And I'm
And
really.
you would suggest that for an upcoming writer to fight for that.
I think it's hard to find an agent, but I think that in the event you can, it's really valuable.
And if you can't, how do you swim with the sharks?
Sure.
Until you can get to a place, because I think I think I like what you said. Both can happen at the same time. You can be with the independent press and they be trash.
Yeah.
But it's against the system. So how do you figure out a way to balance that?
I think I've never regretted saying no to anything. Everything I've said no to because my gut told me to, I ended up being grateful that I said no to it. I have regretted saying yes to things. So I think trusting your instinct, that's cliche, but true. I think being really, really picky about who you are, and no matter how many people make you feel like you're high maintenance, I think it's like, this is you. You're not working for a firm, right? You're not working for a company. You are your company. So you have to be really, really specific about what you agree to and who you align with. And I think if you don't have an agent and you're trying to be a writer, I think unfortunately, or maybe not unfortunately, you got to learn the legal jargon, and you have to go to your friends and don't sign shit that you don't fully understand, and don't say yes to things that you don't fully understand. And just being really cutthroat about it and really strict. And people will make you feel like you're being too much, especially if you're a feminine person. But fuck that, because it's your job and it's your art, and you shouldn't sacrifice your integrity for someone else's comfort.
I love that. I was going to ask you to say something that your younger writer self needed to hear, but I feel like you just said it.
Yeah, that's probably about it.
So just say it again so they could hear you in the back.
Oh, I think I said, don't sacrifice your integrity for someone else's comfort.
Woo! Make some noise for Olivia Gatwood.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Signing?
I think we're doing a book signing.
So we have a book signing that's going to happen. I'm sure she's going to take pictures with me.
With
Okay, great. And then in book signing. And then thank you so much. You can find her on Instagram. She may not answer you back because she's busy swimming with turtles.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming.